Hi, gratitude seekers, and welcome to a new episode of the Gratitude Podcast. Today, I have a gratitude addict for you to talk about gratitude and how to get over chronic pain and much, much more. Her name is Lauren Zalewski, and she is, like I told you, a gratitude addict. And even more, she's the founder and admin of the Attitude of Gratitude for Chronic Pain. But I will let her tell you more about her work and what she does in this world of gratitude. Lauren?
Hi, thank you, Georgie, and thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It's a thrill, and I really can respect what you're doing with gratitude. I am, in fact, a gratitude addict, and there's a lot that brought me to gratitude. Like I said, I'm founder admin of, it's a Facebook group called Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain. And I was talking to Georgie a little bit before we started to air, but there's really such a need when I can go back in my story, but as far as the Facebook group, there was nothing positive, no positive groups with chronic pain. And I was really getting down from it. So that's why I founded that group. And we have a very strict no complaining rule. And it's not that we don't need to complain, we can do, but there's 3,000 other groups that do that. You know, I want this group to be where you can always go to get something positive out of it. But the way I came to the group, I started having chronic pain, lupus and fibromyalgia in about 2001. I was 32, raising 2 toddlers. And I got sick. It felt like I had the flu, but then it kept going on. And so went to the doctor. Originally, they thought it was Lyme disease. Eventually, a doctor in New York City diagnosed me with both lupus and fibromyalgia. And they're autoimmune diseases. There's no cure yet, but they go through ups and downs of flares and sometimes can cause quite a bit of pain. So and the flares would last anywhere from like a couple of weeks to a couple of months.
Wow.
Yeah. But 2009, I hit a really bad flare that, stress can bring on flare. I was in a stressful situation, and I just got into this flare, the worst flare I've ever had. And I pray to God, the only worst flare I've ever had, but it lasted 4 years. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And I'm a positive person by nature. But my attitude of it will get better tomorrow started to slowly drift away. And then it started to be, I'm never going to get better. So I eventually started to self-medicate with alcohol, which wasn't the greatest idea in the world, on top of narcotics. And it wasn't a very long period of time that I was abusing alcohol, about a year, but it got very bad. And my lowest bottom was I woke up in hospital not knowing how I had gotten there. And it turned out I drove in a complete blackout and had a DWI. And thank God I did not hurt anybody. I did not hurt myself. But talk about an eye-opener. That was a real eye-opener. So then my family shipped me off to rehab, and they found a program for me in Connecticut at Silver Hill Hospital called the Chronic Pain and Recovery Center. And I spent a month there in what I call mommy summer camp. But I got sober, and I've been now sober for almost 4 years. Yay!
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I also learned how to deal with my chronic pain your way. That's really the first place where I was kind of introduced to the power of gratitude. The program director of the program at the time, Dr. Bruce Singer, he's my mentor, and I just adore him. But he taught us about meditation, mindfulness, and gratitude being a very big part of that, which sounded in the beginning very hokey to me. Like, how is that going to help my pain? You know, you're taking away my pain medication, but you're giving me what? Gratitude. But he would do exercises with us, and it was pretty amazing. When you look around, and he would tell us to look around. What about this electricity? What if that were turned off? The air that you breathe at a very basic level. So that's where it kind of flicked a switch for the power of gratitude for me. After the month, I got home, and we had meetings of Chronic Pain Anonymous up there. I didn't even know there was such a thing. There were none in New Jersey, which is where I live. So I started a local chapter. We meet once a week, and we learn to live in the solution rather than the problem, which is pretty profound. But I also go to Alcoholics Anonymous. And my sponsor at the time she gave me this quote, which I will never, ever forget. It's, "A grateful heart will never get you drunk." It hit me like a ton of bricks. It really did. And that's where I was going on Facebook, and every kind of gratitude quote I was seeing, I pulled it down. And then last year, I started this gratitude project. I don't know if you want to get into that yet or not, but I can. Sure. Yeah. Okay. So I started, after a couple of years, I started getting sponsees myself underneath me, and I would tell them to send me one thing they're grateful for every day, because I was finding that really powerful myself. And and everybody was coming up with these different things. And I had this idea. So on January 1st of 2016, I started what I called my gratitude project. And what that was is I had to say one thing every day on Facebook, a different thing every day for the entire year that I was grateful for. And I couldn't repeat, and I couldn't, or I tried not to make it anything of materialistic. So it was going really well at first. And then around day 6 or so, I hit a wall, and I'm like, what was I thinking when I got myself into this? There's no way I could come up with 365 different things, but I really had to dig deep, and I did dig deep, and I was able to get through the entire year. And at first, I was very shy about posting things on Facebook. Prior to that, I didn't want to annoy anybody. I tried not to post too much or too little. So this was kind of a fear, believe it or not, for me at least. I was afraid people would unfriend me, actually, because I'd be annoying with my gratitudes every day. Maybe they did. I don't know. Not my good friends anyway. But it started getting a following, which completely shocked me. And people were coming on every day, and they were telling me how reading my gratitudes were changing their lives, and how they were looking at their gratitude. And I was absolutely floored. I couldn't believe it. It made me so happy. So when that started happening, I started getting a little bit more. I started writing a little bit more. Like in the beginning of the year, I would say something like, "I'm grateful for electricity." And then I would just kind of put the picture and the quote with it and leave. Towards the end of the year, I'm writing like tons of stuff along with it about my personal experience with whatever the gratitude was for that day. And then I discovered that I really enjoyed writing from that too. So the entire project was one of the most profound experiences of my life, because it changed my life pretty dramatically, and the way I look at just about everything.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I don't know if you know about the work of Robert Emmons. He also says that it's much more impactful if we write not like 7 things or 10 things, but even 1 or 2, but we write more about why we feel that we are grateful for that, and we get into more details and to more of the feeling that we get from that situation. And it's great that you got to that level like naturally.
Yeah, it got to be a little bit of a pain at the end of the year, because I would start to dread it a little bit, like, oh no, what am I going to do? But it really was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I wanted to ask you, how do you see gratitude? What does gratitude mean for you?
Oh gosh. What does gratitude mean for me? It means acceptance. It means love for myself and others. Um, Satisfaction kind of sounds not, not as deep as I want it to be, because I've thought about this question before about what it means to me. It's contentment, it's satisfaction, but for me, it means happiness. Like if I would pick one word, it would probably be happiness. I'm happy, really happy, and living with chronic pain at the same time.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing and really inspiring.
Thank you.
How we actually met is the fact is by me wanting to get into Lauren's group to understand how people with chronic pain deal with this problem and actually get to be happy, because her group is called Attitude of Gratitude for Chronic Pain. And we got to meet this way, and I wanted to understand how can they be grateful when they are in this situation, so I can understand this and be more valuable for the ones listening to us that are also having this issue. And it's very inspiring that you created this group, and you didn't just do it for yourself, but you also managed to do this for other people, which is amazing. And I think you're doing great work with this.
Thank you. I started it. It's a Facebook group, and I actually started it as a way to kind of advertise the weekly Chronic Pain Anonymous meetings. And I would
Mm-hmm.
throw a quote in here and there. So that's kind of how it started. I didn't really have much of a vision for it, but my friends came in, and then they would tell friends that had chronic pain, and it really grew into this. I often call it like this beautiful beating heart of people that live with chronic pain and illness, because it's exactly what it is. It is not easy to be grateful when you hurt all the time. The definition of chronic pain, I think, is living with it for 6 months or more, and most of the people in there have been, in pain for a very long time. And I find them sending member requests normally when they're sick of. I don't mean to knock the other groups, because there's such a place for them. Like I said earlier, you need to complain. You can't just brush everything under the rug. What that did for me was send me to drinking. But so the rules in the group are pretty much no complaining. Here or there you can a little bit, but we want to hear maybe why you're grateful today, what happened. It could be something as small as, taking a shower can be monumental for people with chronic pain. I should know, I would go weeks without showering before I hit my bottom. But yeah, they are very inspiring, these people, very inspiring. All of their stories so different, and it's work to be grateful. You have to have a practice, and by that I mean writing it down every day, or even stating it in the group, or however you do it. But I've heard people say that the group has really changed their lives, and that makes me so happy. We're now about 1,500 people, and they all either are grateful or they want to be grateful, and we all work on it together. It's fabulous. I'm very proud of it.
Amazing. I think this is a great moment to realize, us, the ones that are healthy and that don't have to deal with this kind of chronic pain, to appreciate the fact that we are healthy and we can live our lives without having pain all the time, like the people from your group and yourself have to deal with every day. So if you need a reason to be grateful right now, and something to make you more grateful in this present moment, you can think about your health and the fact that you don't have to deal with chronic pain, which I'm sure it's really hard to deal with. And that's why it's amazing that you created this group.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
you
they're
might
pretty amazing people, and I find that it gives us kind of a bird's eye, or a different perspective on things. If we happen to have a good day, boy, do we appreciate that day.
yeah, exactly.
There are some good things to having chronic pain if you dig deep enough.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you mentioned a quote uh, about gratitude. I know that you have two because we spoke a bit before.
Yeah,
Can you tell us your favorite quotes on gratitude?
sure. I may try to throw in a third if you let me.
It's okay. Go for it.
So the first one is by Dr. Bruce Singer, who I mentioned was the program director of the Chronic Pain and Recovery Program. He, he's now writing a book on um, living positively with chronic pain, and we're friends. But he is my mentor. His quote is, "Gratefulness will not make pain go away, but will help loosen the bands of suffering, or bonds of suffering." I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no
Which
problem.
for somebody with chronic pain, I think that is absolutely so true, that um, it doesn't make the pain go away, but it helps with your emotional pain for sure. And me, at least, emotional pain sometimes ties into the physical pain. So I love that quote.
Totally, totally.
The second one, I don't know who it's from, but it's gratitude in advance is one of the most powerful creative forces in the universe. That one always has me thinking when I see it. Gratitude in advance, what does that mean exactly?
Exactly, yeah. What does that mean?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what the author was thinking, but for me, it means just always trying to be in that state of gratitude, and it kind of snowballs into the next moment. Gratitude in advance is one of the most powerful creative forces in the universe. Yeah, to me, that's just saying, be practice gratitude as much as you can, and it will snowball into more gratitude, which I believe is true.
Yeah, it makes me think about gratitude prayers, like feeling grateful for the things that you want, instead of praying like, "Please God, give me this." Being grateful for what you already have and for the things that you would like to have in your experience. And this is what it makes me think about.
Yeah, I love that. We talk about that a lot in my 12-step programs, being not focusing so much on what you can't do, but focus on what you can do. People that lose the use of their legs, they maybe, they can stop focusing on that so much and focus on, they have the use of their arms or their eyes or something like that. I love that. That's Georgine. That's really fantastic.
Yeah, it's really great that even though we have all kinds of problems, uh, and I think um, this analogy, like not having your legs, one way or another, we feel this emotionally also. Like we feel like we have no legs as a metaphor, like we can't move in the direction that we want or something like this, or we feel like this. And I think even other people that don't have that problem can relate to this, and to see, even if we can't do some things, we still have a lot of things that we can do and we can be appreciative of. So I like that very much. You mentioned the third quote on gratitude.
Okay. This one's actually by me. Um,
Awesome.
I wrote it a couple of months ago. It says, "When I embrace gratitude and make it my default setting, the rest of my life fits together as the perfectly imperfect, messy, but impeccably beautiful privilege that it is."
Wow.
I don't know
It's
where that
really
came from, but
beautiful.
one night, thank you. Um, I think everybody's always chasing this perfect that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
that causes a lot of problems.
Exactly. Because nowadays with Facebook and all kinds of Instagram and all kinds of social media, we see other people's lives and we think, oh my God, their lives are so perfect. And we think, oh my God, my life is so messy and I have all kinds of problems. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect physically. I'm not perfect. I don't know. I don't have as much money as other people have, and all kinds of things. And this is not helpful. but
No, it's
but
their highlight reel, right? I saw a quote that said that everybody, they post their highlight reel, but they don't say what's going on behind closed doors. So yeah, I think it does set this really unhealthy precedent in our heads, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's why I think authenticity and uh, talking about the fact that okay, there are highlights, like you said, but we live life like life is like with ups and downs. It's something normal. I always found it funny. A friend of mine was going in the weekends, was going in all kinds of places, and he put pictures there. And afterwards, when we met, he told me the actual story behind the pictures and everything. Like he posted a picture from a beautiful place in the mountains when it was snowy, and I at least was thinking, oh my God, how fun it must have been. They were skiing or something like that. I was thinking because he was there and there was snow, and actually they went there. They had some uh, dinner and they came back. So, and they only were there at the slope like for 1 minute, made the picture, and they went back to eat, and that's it. But in my head it was like, oh my God, so cool. They had so much fun and things like that. And it was very funny for me to see, okay, so it's not actually like it seems on social media. So uh,
Right.
and I think many people have this problem, like they see things on social media and they look at their lives and they see, oh my God, it's such a difference between what I see other people living, and they seem so happy and everything, and my life is so messy. And how can I accept myself if it's like this? How can I be okay? How can I be grateful actually?
Right. Yeah, I
When
noticed in my gratitude project that, you see how many likes and comments that you get. And the ones that I put on there that showed how messy things were for me, they got the most likes and comments. It really was an eye opener. I'm trying to think of an example. Well, I talked about my sobriety anniversary, and a lot of people do. I was in recovery, so that got a lot. But I'm trying to think of, I don't know, just something that shows normalcy, like I couldn't get in the shower today, the power's off, something like that. Well, that wouldn't be a gratitude necessarily, but whatever it was, that the more real, instead of showing a picture of your new kitchen counters or something like that, showing authenticity, like you said, and the real stuff was way more important to people, which I found fantastic, and what I'm going to kind of use in the book that I'm writing too, and in the Facebook group. All we talk about is imperfections, because lives
yeah,
are imperfect.
yeah, exactly. And the beautiful thing about accepting these imperfections is the fact that you get to be much happier and much more okay with yourself and with your situation. And this is what it's all about, actually, the experience of life, and that the things that you live day by day, and being able to accept them and to feel compassion for yourself, even if you're not at the level that you would love to be, or other people seem to be at. And I, the other possibility is to think always that you're not good enough, and that things are not great enough in your life, and you can't feel happy because there are other people that are living, oh my God, such amazing lives. And that's not true, actually.
Exactly. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah,
Nobody.
exactly. So I know that you have moments like we all do when it's not easy to be grateful. What do you do when it's hard to be grateful?
Um, I have several different things that I do. Well, last year it was, I always had the one gratitude every day that I had to think of. Um, it's funny, a lot of times was trying to think of the gratitude for the day, and I wasn't having a particularly good day, and the gratitude just wasn't coming to me. And there were a lot of those. um, I would think first, I would think back to the day when I woke up in the hospital and realized that I never want to feel that way again. And anything, no matter how much I hurt or whatever, anything is better than that. The other thing is kind of a silly technique, but do you know the TV show Survivor?
I know about it. I don't really watch
Okay.
TV.
It's it's a TV show where they have like, I don't know, 30 people on an island for a month, and whoever is the best survivor wins at the end. But they only are allowed with like, I don't know, a change of clothes. They're not allowed with much, and they have to get food for themselves and do all that. I haven't watched it in years. It was probably the first real reality show here in America. But I think I often think like, what would I be yearning for if I was in survivor? What would, because you don't have electricity, you don't have any of that. I don't know what got me started with that silly little technique, but it helps. I can think of I don't know, your favorite song. You can be grateful for your favorite song that you haven't heard in a while, or your family, of course. That's another technique. But yeah, the waking up in the hospital day, June 20th, 2013, anything's better than that. It's a really good baseline for me to be grateful.
So, um, relating to a situation in your past when you were at a really low point, is something that we can do in order to get out of the moment in which we are, in which we can really feel too grateful, right?
Yeah, like, we often lose power due to a storm or something like that. And you realize how much power means for you. Like, I live kind of in a rural area, so our wells are pumped by electricity, so we don't have water, we don't have all of that. And sometimes you can lose for days. And then you realize how much you rely on this stuff. Simple, mundane things that you would never think to be grateful for. Then the power comes back on and you kind of forget about it again.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much, and 366 worth. And then I am in the process of writing a book based on that project as well, and a website. I started gratitudeaddict.com. So I'm putting my gratitudes on there, as well as other things relating to being grateful. I started that in January.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Um,
A lot of gratitude.
yeah, it's great that you're doing this work. Um, what I wanted to ask you is, before you actually got to discover gratitude, if you could go back in time, would you tell your younger self about gratitude?
Oh, wow. Well, it would be easy for me to talk about my pain and to appreciate my body that doesn't hurt. I feel like when I look at pictures throughout my life, I always look at them as before sick and after sick. And there's a picture on gratitudeaddict.com of me with my kids, probably right around the time I got sick. And I'm looking at this person who doesn't have a care in the world, and thinking, if she only knew, what's in store for her. Um, but I would tell myself to appreciate everything. And I know it is so cliche, but we don't, tomorrow's never guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. So what do you wish that you could have done, or that person maybe you haven't spoken to in years that you're in an argument with? Make up. Life is way too short. I don't know if you've ever talked about this on your show, but there's a book out, top or 5 regrets of the dying, or something like that. Have you ever heard of this book?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This hospice nurse interviews, thousands of people that are dying on their deathbeds, and she compiles them into 5 things that they wish they did differently throughout their lives. Top 5 or 5 regrets of the dying, something like
Mm-hmm,
that.
mm-hmm.
But boy, that's really something to make you think and be grateful, for sure. What would you be grateful for if you knew your life was ending? So much for me.
Yeah, we tend uh, to remember the fact that we could have been grateful when things get harder, and um, yeah, we tend to to forget the fact that we can be grateful right now, and we have a lot of reasons. Like, if we would only ask ourselves what do we appreciate about our life right now, I'm sure that we can easily find 10 things off the top of our heads, like in just 1 minute. And we tend to get overwhelmed by the negatives, by the things that need our attention more. I don't know if you know about this, but we are actually wired this way to give more attention to the negatives, to the threats, to the things that at least our I think reptilian brain is doing that
I was
in
going to
order.
ask you the same thing if you had ever heard of that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard it only recently. Found it fascinating.
yeah. So we need to survive as a species, and
Right.
our brain is wired that way. But we can rewire it actually, and we can rewire the way we live, and the how much we actually enjoy in life, because it's life isn't just about surviving actually.
Yeah, that whole thing I just found so interesting. So it's more difficult actually to be grateful. It requires more work in our brains, right? That's kind of what that study was saying. Is that right?
Exactly. It's not something we do natural, because it's not for our survival. We as a mammal we don't need to be grateful and to be happy in order to survive. These are just bonuses, theoretically. So when we become conscious of this, we need to choose, and to to create a habit of being grateful and of being happy. It doesn't come naturally usually, but there are positive people like you that are more able to do this, that might be wired differently than the majority.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm lucky. I do think a lot of it has to do with the continuing practice of gratitude also, and having had that bottom of mine. I will never, if I remember that day, if I often say this, if I could bottle up the feeling of waking up there not knowing how I got there with my family over me, if I could bottle up that feeling and feel it for 1 minute every day, I would be so grateful for the rest of my life without having to think twice about it. Life is good. Life is really good. We just have to open up our eyes to see it. Don't you want, I mean, my goal in life is to enjoy life and be happy. That's my ultimate goal, I would say, in life, would be to be happy. So I will work to stay that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what do you do to get to this point where you are grateful consistently? What practices do you have?
Um, right now, actually, honestly, it's not as daily as it was when I was doing the project, because now I'm working on the Gratitude Addict website. Well, I do take one page that's the post from a year ago today. So I do go and take that and move it to the website so I can, and then I see it. So I do sort of practice it every day doing that. But I think between attitude of gratitude with chronic pain, doing that group, and then the website, I think I'm just kind of immersed in gratitude all the time. And I was very excited to see your podcast. I think it's long overdue. I think you're going to do fabulous.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And I love what you're doing as well. And I wanted to ask you, how can people get to your group? So it's on Facebook,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, it is. It's on Facebook. It's a closed group, but you can send in a member request to Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain, and we'll accept you, probably.
Perfect. Yeah, I like this about Lauren. Like, I wanted to get into the group, and she messaged me and asked me if I am actually in chronic pain. Thankfully, I'm not. And I told her the reason why I wanted to get into the group. And I appreciate the fact that she takes care of the group. It's not everyone can get in, just the people that actually have this condition. And I think this is very valuable for the members, for the fact that they can feel like they are a community, that they are a tribe, they are together, and they can understand each other much better, and they're in a safe place. So that's great. So if you have this kind of condition, go for it. If not, it's not the case for you.
Right. Physical or emotional pain as well. We find that we're accepting more of those, and I think the way it affects both types of pain is exactly the same. But Georgine was so sweet and honest, and I felt so bad. But we had just, like, the day before, 2 days before, had somebody that was taking our discussion, which is against the rules, but taking our discussion and putting it on his website. So there is a trust factor. So thank you for understanding.
Sure.
If they had seen, that you're from the podcast, people won't be as open. It won't be a safe place. So yeah, anyway, you can send a member request to Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain, long name. But we would love to have you. We were small up until about a year ago. I started in 2014, and then we had, about a year ago now, we had 100 people. And then all of a sudden we started getting a ton of requests to come in, and we were getting scattered ones because I write some articles for a website called The Mighty about chronic pain and gratitude. So whenever those articles would run, we'd get a little surge, but these were a ton. All of a sudden we started showing up on people's suggested pages. Don't know why. I researched, nobody knows why, what the algorithm was, but so now we're growing. We always want to make sure we don't lose the intimacy. I don't know if that's the right word, the integrity, I guess, of the group by letting it grow. In fact, we thought about not accepting anymore after 100 people, but we're so glad we didn't, because the more of these awesome people to contribute their inspiration, I find the group just gets better and better.
Exactly. And I love the fact that I'm sure some people are shy and they don't want to express themselves, but I think that just by reading the stories that there are there, and the fact that they can be grateful for even worse situations than they are in, I think this is very helpful and very inspiring for the ones that for the members, and I think it's really beautiful.
Thank you. I don't know if you've seen this, but just yesterday I made a new post. It's a girl, and I have the permission of the girl and her mother, but 16-year-old girl put in a request to our group to join in November, and that always breaks my heart. I'm like anybody living with chronic pain, but somebody so young breaks my heart. And we had started this new thing in the group where you could submit a 5-minute video about yourself and tell us about yourself and your pain condition however you wanted. Or my co-admin and I would interview them. And so this girl was the first one to send in the video, and maybe I'll leave you hanging on that to see it. But I will tell you that for me, it was really life-changing. She doesn't say a word throughout the 5 minutes. She holds up signs and there's pictures and things like that. But the way she handles adversity with gratitude is just, for somebody who's 47 years old, and I work so hard at it every day, I've learned so much from her. So you can find that on gratitudeaddict.com or in now I'm getting really confusing. I also have a Facebook group for gratitudeaddict.com. So if you look for Gratitude Addict on Facebook, I'm there as well.
All right.
Thank you. Confusing, I know, but it's posted on there as well.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for your time and for sharing this with us, and for sharing your story and your wisdom. It has been great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Georgie, and it was fun.